I received this dream on December 23rd of last year, 2021. I was on the grounds of an estate, a luxurious home, reminding me of a sprawling old country club. Marvin and I were going to have guests later that day for a barbecue. I did not see Marvin, and as a point, Marvin is my late husband who died in 1993. The next morning, there were people in the kitchen, and I wanted some bacon, so I put the bacon on a normal sized outdoor grill. I sat in a white Adirondack chair under the awning with my feet propped up, but stretched out in front of me. I checked on the bacon, but barely lifted the lid. It still looked uncooked. The grill was still on, but the temperature so low nothing could cook. A very friendly white and brown dog was running around and playing alone. I noticed another grill further down in the backyard, like you were going to have a buffet. The grill was huge with 3 lids, event size. There was a lot of meat, all fully cooked but prepared the day before. The grill was very deep. Excuse me. Under the left lid was 12 perfectly cooked chickens, and behind them a small cooked pig standing up, and another cooked animal to its right. Under the right lid was 12 cooked chickens. I knew there was cooked meat under the larger middle section, but only briefly saw it. I wonder why Marvin didn't take care of the food yesterday. I didn't want anyone upset about the loss of the meat, so I started to put the chickens in a black garbage bag using long tongs, and they were so tender they broke apart. But then I stopped and said to myself, let them take care of it. I took the couple of chickens out of the bag and put them back on the grill. I knew even though all the food looked like it could be eaten, it was spoiled and had to be thrown out. End of dream.
Wow. So where were you?
I was on an estate. I was at, it was, and I said it looked like a
Looked like a
luxurious
country
home,
club.
like the old type
Like a
of
country
club,
club.
you know.
Yeah. Was it your house?
When I looked at it, I think it was,
Okay.
but it wasn't really my house. But I mean, in the dream, I believed it was my
Right.
house.
So it's not the house you live in now, but it's
No.
a house that would be like a mansion that you would love to live in. Just a really opulent,
Right.
incredible place. Big.
It was big.
And Marvin's there with you.
Well, I didn't see him. I had the sense he was there.
Okay,
I
interesting.
didn't see him. He didn't say anything. And he's been gone almost 30 years.
Yeah. Wow. So you went out the back, and did you go out the back to cook the bacon?
Yep.
Okay. And the bacon was on a grill. You lifted up the lid to check on it. Very low heat, not being cooked. This is an issue, right? And then you see several other grills further down, and you open them up, and there's like meat fully cooked, 12 chickens, a roasted pig, another 12 chickens, right?
Right.
2 sets of 12 chickens.
Yep.
And a roast pig. Wow. How do you feel about a career in politics?
That's what I thought too.
Well, the number 12 obviously represents, like the 12 tribes of Israel. It's the number of government. The pig, I heard like pork barrel politics.
Oh.
And the idea of all of this stuff that's been prepared that nobody's taken care of, that's now gone to waste, is the idea that we got to pick this up and throw this out. We literally need to clean up what's happening here because it's creating so much waste. The idea that Marvin is with you, I think, is a fascinating symbol, because I feel like, and this is just what I sense prophetically, like there may have been a conversation that you guys had that could be related to something like a career in the public sector, and he was supportive of you.
We were pastors. We pastored for a long time.
Okay. Did you ever talk about the idea of going into government or politics or the public sector beyond ministry?
Not really.
Okay. Was he really supportive of the things that you did in ministry?
Absolutely.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Yeah, I feel like I don't feel like the spoiling of the food was his doing. It's also interesting again that you didn't see him, so I don't feel like that it was something that he was responsible for. But I do, I had the same thought, Cody, the idea of the house being like your house in heaven.
Huh.
an idea of abundance. And of course, that would certainly explain the idea of Marvin being there. But I don't see the idea of wasted food fitting into the idea of heaven. So I think it's interesting. I see wasted food, particularly a roasted pig and 2 sets of 12 chickens, fitting into the idea of our current political atmosphere, particularly in this country, but not just this country, around the world. And I feel like 2 sets of 12 chickens represent both sides of the aisle.
Me too.
People are afraid, they're operating in fear, they don't want to rock the boat, they just want to keep the status quo. So Republicans are afraid to do what's necessary to put us in a better position. Democrats are kind of just off in their own world doing their own thing. And it feels, I think, to a lot of people in the country that there isn't anybody in Congress or in Washington, D.C. that's fighting for us. It feels like they're fighting for themselves. It feels, even with the stock stuff that's come up recently with all of these, you have a career, you start out broke, you have a career in public service, and you end up having net worth of hundreds of millions of dollars. It's totally the idea of fraud, pork barrel politics. And we've seen this, and there's been, stories that have come out about the way that certain speakers, in the corporate or the congressional setting, people that, go up to the microphone and talk on a regular basis, names that we would know have used their family and their influence to gain a huge amount of wealth for themselves at the public expense. And I feel like you're seeing that and you're like, this is such a great place, such a great setting, which I believe can also represent the idea of America. And you're like, but man, we gotta deal with this food. Like, you can't leave rotting food sitting out there. So we have the bacon here that nobody's, the fire isn't hot enough to cook the bacon. So we got to turn up the bacon so we can eat today. But all this food that we made for yesterday is literally just going to waste. It's wasted opportunities. It's, it reminds me of like unfunded mandates the federal government will put on, cities and states. And a lot of it is like, if you think of the amount of money, if you look at what's happened in the last year and a half and how everybody said things like follow the science. And then they said, well, here's what we believe the science says. And then there were other groups of people that says, no, we don't believe that at all. And now coming to find out that the other groups were right. And since they were right, I wish somebody would tally up the amount of billions and billions of dollars that were wasted on things that didn't help, things that they probably knew from the get-go didn't help, things that people would, wave their hands and said, we don't want to go down this road. We don't need to mandate this. We don't need to mandate that. We're wasting billions and billions and billions of government dollars on non-solutions. And at the end of the day, they're all wasted efforts. And they haven't kept anybody safe. And that's the thought that comes to mind. I'm not judging either side. People can think for themselves, do their own research. I'm not telling people how to think. I'm just interpreting your dream. But particularly as of late, both sides of the aisle, the pig itself represents just, the government pork barrel politics that has been consistently going. I think we're more aware of it than we've ever been. But it's in every part, from foreign aid to everything that they put in these huge omnibus bills, these infrastructure bills that have absolutely nothing to do with infrastructure whatsoever at all. And the fact that there's no accountability and nobody's cleaning up the mess. And so you're like, you know what? Somebody needs to do it. And initially you start doing it. And then you're like, you know what? I'm just going to let them clean up their own mess. Right? And that's how it ended.
Yeah, I kind of wondered if it was that I figured out that one person couldn't do it. It was going to have to take everyone to do it, to clean it up. That was kind of my take on that part.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think so. But I think it needs a leader. I think it needs somebody that's going to come in and say, okay, guys, we're going to clean this up. And I think part of cleaning it up, unfortunately, is going to be to go down the road of exposing further corruption and bringing it all to light again. That's lifting up the lid, right? And discovering what's under there. And it's happened so many times. And the problem is it's happened so many times recently with stuff that wasn't real. Oh, this is a big major crisis, and the media's thrown stuff down our throats that 2.5, 3 years later we find was a massive nothing burger and there was no wrongdoing, and it was a complete vendetta against one person or one family or one side of the aisle. And what's happened again is, I wish congressional oversight committees, when they go down the road of investigating things that they know they have no basis investigating, I wish the congressman had to pay individually, personally, out of their pockets, the $25 million or whatever that it takes to investigate somebody that they just don't like, but there's clearly no wrongdoing at all. And this is the idea of them cleaning up their own messes. I think we need to change some laws in this country. I think when you hold a group that has a market share cornered on things like, maybe medical supplies, that is above being sued for their stuff when it malfunctions, when it doesn't work, and when people die, but you can't blame us, even though you don't have a choice if you want to keep your job on whether you use this medical device or not. That's a problem. And those companies, they need to clean up those messes, and they need to be held accountable. But it's going to start in changing our elected legislatures, both at the state level, at the national level. And it's going to start with a reboot of people that are going to stand up, people like yourselves, pastors, citizen politicians, citizen leaders that are going to say, you know what, enough's enough. And we're going to run for Congress, and we're not going to Congress to get rich. We're not going to Congress to stay for 50 years. We're going to Congress to kick everybody else out and have some rules that make sense in this land. And we're going to clean up this mess, and we're going to help them clean up this mess. And part of them cleaning up the mess may mean they never get access to the grill or the food again, frankly. What do you think?
Sounds good. We're ready to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is you were the one that lifted up the lid on the grills and saw the waste that was happening. So that could be the role of a whistleblower, or that could be the role of, again, an oversight committee or some level of investigation. That could also be the idea of taking on a position of governance yourself and being there specifically because you believe that there's something that's going on with these grills, and you're the one that's going to be able to bring it to light, and you're going to organize the cleanup. So I feel like there's something that God has for you related to what's happening in America today. Now, it could be just being a voice, but it could also be running for office. So I think you should prayerfully consider that, see what resonates with your heart, what your desires are. And, I think God has some great plans for you still.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Pam.